You're sitting across from someone new. Maybe it's your first date. Maybe you've only exchanged a few messages online. And then suddenly they ask something very personal, too personal. You feel yourself flinch or freeze, and a part of you wonders if you're overreacting. But another part of you knows that question didn't land right. You don't feel safe. If you've ever been in that moment, today's video is for you. We're going to talk about why invasive dating questions are much more common than you think, how to recognize red flags in how they're asked, and most importantly, how to respond in a way that protects your emotional safety and honors your boundaries. Whether it's trauma probing, financial questions, or feeling like you're being interviewed instead of being seen, I'll guide you right through how to navigate these moments with clarity and strength. So, for those of you who don't already know me, my name is Shelley J Whitehead, and I'm a specialist relationship coach working with individuals and couples all around the globe, helping them to lay the foundations for healthy love, thriving connection based on developing essential relationship skills. So, let's talk about what to do when someone asks a question that crosses that line, especially early on in dating. Because emotional safety matters, even on a first date. There's a client I worked with who shared that every time she went on her first date, she felt like she was being interviewed, but not in a curious conversational way. It was in a way that felt invasive and transactional. Questions like, do you rent or own? Questions about how much she earned in the job that she did. And then, why are you still single? And it left her feeling like she was being assessed, not wanting to be known. It put her off dating entirely. So when I worked with her, we spent a lot of time preparing how to have safe boundaries and healthy boundaries in dating. And this made all the difference to her enjoyment of dating. Let's start with that biggest cliche. So why are you still single? It sounds harmless, maybe even flattering, but the subtext often implies something's wrong with you and now it's your job to explain. You're allowed to hold your ground without becoming defensive. You could respond, I'd rather focus on where I'm going rather than defend where I've been. Playful. Or, that's a big conversation, not one I usually unpack on a first date. When you give yourself permission to respond like that, you're setting the tone for emotional safety in dating from the very beginning. Okay, so let's have a look at the trauma probing questions about your childhood, your past relationships, even your biggest wounds. At first, it might feel or seem like a sign of emotional depth, like they really want to understand you. But in many cases, it's less about being, that genuine connection and more about accelerating intimacy before trust has been earned. And that can be deeply destabilizing, especially for people who are naturally open hearted. You don't need to shut down or justify anything. You can simply say, I've done a lot of healing around that, but I don't talk about it with people I've just met. That's a healthy boundary. It's also a quiet signal to yourself that you're staying anchored no matter who you're with. And what about financial or status-based questions? These can be subtle, but they carry weight. So, do you rent or own? What do you do exactly? They can also be as overt as somebody wanting to know how much you earn. Framed as curiosity, they might not seem like red flags at first, but often these questions are about placing you in a box, trying to calculate your lifestyle, value, or compatibility based on external markers. And if that doesn't sit right with you, it's absolutely okay to protect your privacy. You could say, I prefer to talk about things that reflect who I am, not just what I earn or own. Because your worth is not measured in data or data points. And the right person will want to know you, not your resume. Sometimes dating doesn't just include the odd invasive question. It can feel like the entire date is a string of interviews. No space for humor, no space for pause, just back-to-back questions, one after the next. When this happens, you might start to feel tense in your body, less like you're being known and more that you're being processed. That's not a sign that you're too sensitive. That's your nervous system picking up on the pace and the pressure. Connection doesn't grow in interrogation, it grows in the space in between, in moments of reflection, attunement, curiosity. So if someone is just collecting information without emotional presence, it's worth checking in with yourself. And this might be the most important part of all. Just because someone asks a question doesn't mean you owe them that answer. That's true in dating and everywhere else. You can always say, that's not something I want to talk about right now. That's enough. Boundaries are not rejection, they're protection. And they're about how we honor the energy it takes to open ourselves to someone new. When you set those boundaries early, you're giving the other person a chance to show you something important. How they respond to your not yet tells you a lot about their emotional availability and capacity for connection. Dating is not a performance. It's not a test. It's a process of learning, pacing, and choosing. And you deserve to be known at a pace that honors your heart. Remember, love and connection are skills you can learn. Take your time, trust the process, and keep practicing. With awareness and consistency, you can lay the foundations for an enchanted life and for beautiful relationships rooted in deep connection. If this video speaks to something inside you, I'd love for you to subscribe. I share grounded insights on dating, boundaries, got a tickle in my throat, self-trust, and emotional clarity, because connection begins with you.